Good morning. This is English 7 for Friday the 20th, for March the 20th. Go ahead and open your book, please, to page 171. Today we're going to talk about diagramming adverb phrases. Now let's review for just a moment. We've already talked about diagramming adjective phrases and adverbs and adjectives. So let's back up. When you look at a sentence, the first thing you find are the prepositional phrases. Then you find the verb and then the subject. So if I were diagramming, I would have my subject and verb. If I have an adjective describing my subject, it's going to go on a diagonal line right under my subject. If I have an adverb describing the verb, telling me maybe how someone did something, I'm going to put an adverb on my diagram right under the verb. What happens though if you have an adverb that describes an adjective? Okay, well here's my adjective for the subject. I'm going to draw another diagonal line and I'm going to connect it and put my adverb on the second one, showing that this adverb describes this adjective. Now, the same process works if it's an adverb describing an adverb. So we're going to put a line and connect it and put an adverb. Okay, so here I have an adverb describing an adverb. Here I have an adverb describing an adjective. We learned that a couple of days ago. Now today we're going to take it a step further. Remember how when we first talked about prepositional phrases in last unit, I said if a prepositional phrase describes a noun or describes a pronoun, then it is an adjective phrase because it's doing the job of an adjective. Adjectives tell us which one, what kind, how much, how many, or whose. An adjective always will answer one of those questions about a noun or a pronoun. Adverbs answer the questions where, when, how often, or to what extent, and they tell us about the verb, about an adjective, or another adverb. When we are going to diagram these today, we're going to remember that just like we put the adverb on a diagonal line underneath the verb, if we have a prepositional phrase, we're going to put it underneath the verb if it describes the verb. If we have an adverb phrase or a prepositional phrase acting like an adverb, therefore we call it an adverb phrase, if we have an adverb phrase describing an adjective, we'll put it right here under the adjective on a slanted line, and we're going to go through that step by step. Let's look at number 2 in your blue box. The fisherman rose early in the morning. The prepositional phrase is italicized for you, in the morning. What's the verb? Rose. Who or what rose? Fisherman. Fishermen rose when? They rose early. How early or to what extent early? In the morning. Okay, or when early? In the morning. Okay, so we're going to diagram. As you can see, we have fisherman, rose as our subject and verb, and early as our adverb. Look at the prepositional phrase. Prepositional phrases go on. The preposition goes on our diagonal line. Then we have our object here, or the noun of the object of the prepositional phrase. And then any modifiers it has goes here. So this would be our preposition. This is the object, and this is a modifier, an adjective modifier. How then do we connect this? We're going to take this and we're just going to draw a line and connect it to the rest of our diagram. We're going to, just as you see that in number 2. Let's look at number 3. What if you have an adverb phrase that modifies the verb? Okay, notice there's no difference in how number 2 and number 3 are diagrammed. They both put the preposition on a slanted line. They both put the object on the line that's parallel to the base. And then they have modifiers. The difference is in number 3, we have a compound object, meaning we have more than one object to our preposition. The raft floated beyond Cameron and me. Beyond Cameron and me is our prepositional phrase. Floated is our verb. Who or what floated? The raft floated. We don't have an object or complement in this sentence, so we simply say the raft, and then we say beyond Cameron and me describes where it floated. Since it floated beyond Cameron and me, beyond is my preposition, then you can see we have the line that comes out for the object. Notice that our object line is compound because there's two, Cameron and me. It's on a rocket. Anytime we have a compound subject, compound verb, compound complement, compound object of a preposition, all of those go on a rocket because they have this. There are two things doing the same job. Okay, let's look at number 1 in your book. Peter, James, and John were fishing on the Sea of Galilee. I wrote the sentence on the board for us. The first thing we're going to see is prepositional phrases. Well, the first prepositional phrase is on the sea, and the second is of Galilee. So put parentheses around those. Okay? Next, look for your verb. What is the verb? Our verb is were fishing. Who or what were fishing? Were fishing was being done by Peter, James, and John. This is a great example of a compound. Remember, I just said if you have a compound subject, compound verb, compound object, those go on rockets. Well, this rocket actually has to have 3 because we have 3 subjects. So what you're going to do is draw your rocket. Put your dotted line there for your conjunction, but then I want you to draw a 3rd line to that dotted line. That's because we have to have 3. Go ahead and bring your line out. Please do these neatly in your book. You're going to need to refer to them over the next few days. Okay, so our first question is, what is the verb? We said our verb is were fishing. So let's write were fishing. Then I ask you, who or what were fishing? Well, the names, Peter, James, and John, are our subjects. So we put Peter, James, John. Of course, on the dotted line should be our conjunction. Our conjunctions. Conjunctions connect things. In this case, the conjunction is the word and. Now, we still have these 2 prepositional phrases at the end. So we have on the Sea of Galilee, and so let's start with on the sea. What does on the sea tell us about? It tells us about fishing. Where were they fishing? On the Sea of Galilee. So we're going to go under fishing. We're going to, just like you're doing a prepositional phrase, because that is what you're doing, you're going to draw your lines for your prepositional phrase, okay? And of course, we know it is on, and sea is the object. Now, there's a word that was in that phrase, on the sea. So the word the tells me, the word the is always an adjective. And it comes right before the word it describes. So the describes sea. So go to the word sea, draw a line, and write the. Okay, it's going to be an adjective, so it's on a slanted line. Now we have the phrase of Galilee. What does of Galilee describe? Does it tell me where, when, how, or how often, or to what extent they were fishing? No. Does it tell me which one, what kind, how much, how many, or whose? Yes. It tells me which sea, which one. Of Galilee. So of Galilee is an adjective phrase that is going to describe sea. So I'm going to have to lengthen my line a little bit, and I'm going to make another prepositional bracket. I put of here, of Galilee. And so I'm going to write Galilee because it is my object. Because remember, the object has to be a noun or a pronoun. So here I have Peter, James, and John are my subject. Were fishing is the verb. On the sea is an adverb phrase describing were fishing, tells me where they're fishing. The is an adjective telling me of the sea, okay, because the is and then we have of Galilee telling me which one, which sea, the Sea of Galilee. And we have diagrammed our entire sentence. Remember, the words on the sea is a prepositional phrase describing my verb. So it's an adverb phrase.